Hello, and I want to thank you all for being here. Long live the resistance, and welcome. $12. I don't like to do anything before 12 o'clock. I want to thank everyone for all the kind and interesting comments. I want to read one and then share some related ideas. Nadine 1022 says, "Hello from France. I have a French dictionary from 1906 in which the name of Nikola Tesla, 1856 to 1963, said to be in his full glory, does not appear there. On the other hand, the word Tartary appears there and refers to Turkestan. Here's the translation of what is written. Turkestan, or Tartary, independent, a region of Asia between Siberia, Afghanistan, the Caspian Sea, 5 to 6 million inhabitants." So this is her dictionary from 1906. 5 to 6 million inhabitants. This region, also called Turan, is today under the domination or sovereignty of Russia. Chinese Turkestan, or Petit Bukhari, Little Bukhari, or Kachgari, province of the Chinese Empire, having around 500,000 inhabitants. But right here, not just a region, but 6 million inhabitants. And I thank you for this. So here on this map, we see Turkestan to the north and east of the Caspian Sea. And then further north and east, we see Tartaria, written in large letters, seeming to speak for the whole nation. And Turkestan, or whatever this is today Turkestan. So here we are on a map, and this is not far from Turkestan. This is actually the city of Astana. It's very astonishing. And we were in Kazakhstan. I've said it before, I experienced it in my lifetime, in my youth. Suddenly all these stands appearing. And I think just as we're not taught about Tartary, we really don't know what's going on in these areas either. And when you look into it, it's very fascinating. It's to say that there is a large footprint of the old world found out here in these regions that are constantly warring, that even the US is involved in, especially here. And I thought we would have a little look. So Turkmenistan, I really don't know what order I should go in today. I mean, I wanted to look at some more maps of Tartaria. Like I said, there's so many. But at the same time, with this comment, I've been led down a rabbit hole. We have an old French dictionary clearly linking Turkmenistan with Tartaria in 1906. It said in the comment that it had about 6 million inhabitants, and here we can see Turkmenistan with a population of 6.5 million. Should I ring the bell? It's the 35th most popular or populated country in Asia. And here's some of the ruins in Turkmenistan. Before we look at the absolutely advanced World's Fair seeming cities in this area, well, these are the ruins. This is called Merv. It was said to be one of the largest cities in the world. Merv is one of the oldest cities in Central Asia and was once the biggest city in the world, or one of them. It was an important stop on the Silk Road, and merely in 1881 it was annexed or stolen by the Russians. And whatever, I don't want to get political, but I just want to say that this shift occurs in this time period, as if everyone doesn't have enough going on in their own broken countries. I mean, from the US to Russia. Here they're annexing this region. it became a constituent of the Soviet Union. The country is criticized for its poor human rights. Very nice flag with a horse. It's criticized for its lack of press and religious freedom. It sounds horrible, doesn't it? No, actually. It has a totalitarian president for life, this man, but then he died in 2006. And then his son won. Anyway, here's where it gets interesting. It possesses the world's 5th largest natural gas reserves. From 1993 to 2019, citizens received government-provided electricity, water, and natural gas free of charge. And it's part of the United Nations. So really interesting that it's criticized for its poor human rights, its lack of press and religious freedom. But for a little over 30 years, citizens received free electricity, water, and gas. So really interesting. A clear takeover. What was once a thriving city or nation now finds itself in this oppressive in-between governments situation. 6.5 million. And really interesting, even in these times, the way that we're seeing immigration all over the place, shuffling of people. If you watch any boots on the ground videos of people on the border of the US and Mexico, you'll see people are pouring in from all over the world at a very alarming rate from every country. African countries, China, South America, and the people are very excited to come here, leaving their countries. Often they're very well dressed better than most Americans, thinking they're coming here for a better life, without realizing the truth, that there really is not much opportunity for them over here. Some won't care, just safety from the oppression they left will be enough. But we're seeing something that we saw in the mid-1800s. What is called the orphan trains. Just a redistributing of people, a shuffling of populations, really making no sense unless you look at it from the perspective of this research. Cities are being taken over. In the case with North America, shuffling the Native Americans around, relocating them. In the case with these orphan trains, we're told between 1854 and 1929, they relocated about 200,000 children. The founder of the orphan train movement claimed these children were abused or homeless, but this was not always true. They were mostly the children of new immigrants and children of the poor and destitute families living in these cities. One organization alone sent an average of 3,000 children via train each year from 1855 to 1875. Orphans were sent to 45 states, as well as Canada and Mexico. I mean, really? It would make no sense today, and should make no sense back then. During the early years, Indiana received the largest number of children. The New York Foundling Hospital had an orphan train program of their own. Part of my research, I wasn't sure if I was going to share it, but immediately it tied into the orphan trains. Everything comes back to the old world. The buffalo, or the American bison, used to range all throughout North America. Once roaming, the species became nearly extinct by a combination of commercial hunting and slaughter in the 19th century. In the late 18th century, there was said to be 60 million buffalo. And I'll show some pictures, which I can't validate, of the mounds of buffalo skulls. Mountains of buffalo skulls polished. And they went from 60 million to 541 by 1889. This stupid time period. Why? Well, at first they told us commercial hunting and slaughter. But right here we see that it was a part of the subjugation of the Native Americans. Because the bison was such a major resource for their traditional way of life, food, hides for clothing and shelter, horns and bones for tools, they eradicated 60 million buffalo. Now this is very puzzling. We're told that only 541 animals remained in 1889. 60 million slaughtered as part of a sick effort to backhandedly undermine the Native Americans. Now, I've often said that the testing of weapons in the Southwest was something else. It was actually the eradication of cities, perhaps people, and perhaps the buffalo, even if it was just a byproduct. And that's why we see these cooked, polished bones. So here's where it ties in with the orphan trains. Recovery efforts expanded in the mid-20th century, with a resurgence to roughly 31,000 buffalo as of March of 2019. So here we skip through a lot of this. Here's a buffalo running, really formidable beast. And we get to this part on crossbreeding with cattle. During the population bottleneck, after the great slaughter of the bison, the number declined to 541, as we read up above. During that period, a handful of ranchers gathered remnants of the existing herds to save the species. In 1871, there was a population of 100, split into 6 herds, 5 that were managed by private ranchers, and 1 managed by the New York Zoological Park, now the Bronx Zoo. Additionally, there was a wild herd consisting of 25 individuals in Yellowstone National Park that survived the bottlenecking. And there's a lot of genetic breeding going on, shuffling these buffalo around, and it really read like our story and the introduction and shuffling of people, which is still going on today. So no doubt we see a reset in the past, a resetting of all nations, and it's still going on now. This is facilitated through supposed natural disasters and strategic wars, or as it's sometimes called, the theater, squeezing one people out and ushering a new one. We see this going on everywhere. One thing I love about YouTube is watching all the travel videos, all the people that independently go out and explore these countries, sometimes having great difficulty obtaining a visa, and once they get in, they are very eager to get back out. This was one example. This country has a military, we could see it here, and we can see their grand palaces in the background. If we have a little look at their capital city in Turkmenistan, again not far from the ruins of Merv, we see this place, Ashgabat. Here is a little look at Ashgabat. Fountains, intricate layouts, domes everywhere. And again, for 30 years, free power to the oppressed citizens. There's nobody walking around here. It looks like our photos from the mid-1800s. It looks like a World's Fair. We're told the whole country has 6 million people, and this city looks like a city of 6 million people, but there's nobody to be seen. Here's a mosque. Here we can see what appears to be newer buildings. We're told there was an earthquake in 1948. Much of the city was built of adobe or fired brick. All but a few buildings collapsed. Here we can see an old building before the earthquake. Looks like it was built from 1909 to 1917. This is a postcard. There we go. They were making postcards. Here we can see a factory on a 1950 stamp. Well, it looks like America in 1950. And here a photo from 1908. A house of worship. There we go. Really teched out up here. Early 1900s. And here she is at night in modern times. So what's going on here? Let me show you where this city is. Here we have India, Saudi Arabia. If we triangulate up here to the east of the Caspian Sea, we have Ashgabat. Just seems like a real wasteland. Here we go, zooming in, and we see this really built out city. Not seeming like some desert town, but very advanced, just like we saw in the photos. More gardens and waterways and parks than seem to be needed. Empty parking lots. I mean, a parking lot's a parking lot. Very few cars on the streets. Here it's a little busy. And look at these parks. Look how even impressions of this star are buried. They're actually trying to cover a lot of it up. They've planted grass over these stars, and they're still poking through. As we can see, a better example here. And everything is just really generic. Like here, you see ice cream shop, and not seeming like an ice cream shop, just randomly in this park. Here, a shopping mall. It doesn't look like a shopping mall. It looks like an apartment building, like all the other ones. Seeming like a big ruse, really. Just trying to cover up as much as they can, trying to plant over all these anomalous advanced impressions left over from what could only be a very advanced civilization. Here we can see in this field a steakhouse. Just so random. And just all of this is completely over the top. I'm not even showing you these buildings. We're just looking at the footprint. So this is a roundabout. And they've just put this structure here. This parking structure. There we go. That's just what we needed. Look at the tech on this light. Just the light. It's just some random thing I zoomed into. And what are these? And in my opinion, this is all circuitry. Poking up. This country, like I said, is very difficult to get into. And this is just waiting for a history and a new people. But the truth is, going back to the original comment that I started the video with, is this has an old history. This, according to a 1906 dictionary, is part of Tartary. We see it on the old map, exactly where it is today. Over on this side, we have the Merv ruins, again said to be one of the largest cities in the world, and it's actually out of control. There's a very small population out here. Look, there's nothing, but this is clearly a city center that has been completely wiped out. Here, if I zoom in, I put a pin and have called it Unnamed Ruins. So here we go, zooming in, we see a melted castle. Just uninteresting, not even worth naming, not a tourist site, and unbelievable. I would love to explore this. Let's zoom back out. Here's a mosque that looks like this in the middle of nowhere. And look at all of this. Here I have a random pin up on the northeast corner of Turkmenistan. There's another city, a beautiful city up here. It has the same thing going on, these very, very intricate roundabouts. Let's look at their picture. There we go. So here's a golden-topped tech antenna roundabout with water features. Not even in the big city. And just look at all of this. Look at this. They don't even let us get a street view. But we have these same intricate gardens or parks, or I don't know what they call them. Let's see what else I've put a pin on. I was looking at, how large this country is, and came over here to the Caspian coast. I thought it would be littered with cities. This would be the ideal place to be. Over here, a little closer to the coast, we have a little town. Here I've titled this Ruins in the middle of this town. And let's see what we get. There we go. So you see, it doesn't look very impressive when we look at it like this. Of course, they don't give us a street view. But when we click on their picture, this is what we get. I mean, this looks like any old world building anywhere in the world. In the same condition as we see them when photos first are introduced. And I guess this is my point. This is what I really want to stress, is these are the ruins in this region. This city of Hazar on the coast of Turkmenistan was pretty interesting. Really had an advanced layout. I'll show you that. You can see this very circuit board pattern. I've titled this the city center, but it's now had its buildings wiped out, it seems. But everything leads to this point. Very symmetrical. Here we have the public park. Again, you could see fountains, and this place is cool because it shows you the ruined conditions that they must have found everything in after it was wiped out by whatever. So here they haven't added the water features and cleaned it up basically. You can see it in its original post-cataclysmic state. And these are all massive, massive buildings. I mean, even this one, this is like a World Fair style building right here, but they don't want to show it to us. But you can see, here we generically see music school, soccer field. Just trying to paint a picture that everything is normal here. So that's it. I don't think I hit on all the points I wanted to. I'd hoped to share some old Moscow. Why not just have one quick little look? Here we go. Old, crusty Moscow. This makes a lot of sense. I wanted to talk about wildfires, especially the recent ones in Texas, but I think I'll just point out that we see the same stupid pattern going on, the most un-wildfires in history. And I've said it over and over, but this is a problem. It's a problem when people begin to think that it's normal, that fires should burn and turn houses and metal and bathtubs into powder while leaving the wild, the forest, or sometimes grasslands untouched. So for this week, be blessed. I love you all. God bless, and I'll see you next week.